Happy Mother's Day to all of the proud parents out there and fur baby parents. Today I just briefly wanted to take a look at 1980's Mother's Day. The film was directed and co-produced by Charles Kaufman. For those of you who do not know, he is the brother of Lloyd Kaufman. The VHS for this film was released in the mid-80s by Media Home Entertainment, and it was later again re-released by Video Treasures. This film also received a 2000 DVD release by Troma Entertainment. This film also received a 2012 Blu-ray release by Anchor Bay. So apparently, due to the violent nature and the rape scenes in this film, it was considered somewhat of an exploitation film, and it had been for a time banned in the United Kingdom by the British Board of Film Classification. Between 2006 and 2008, the film did air on the horror channel Uncut, but had not received a DVD release. In 1983, the film had originally been passed in Australia with an 18+ classification or rating, but was later pulled in 1985. In 2015, Mother's Day finally saw a Blu-ray release as part of 88 Films Slashers Classics collection. Mother's Day is the story of three college girlfriends who get together for their yearly weekend trip. Along their trip, they are abducted by a pair of goons and dragged back to their mother's house. This is actually where the sordid part really happens, is that the two sons, I guess you could say, enact violent fantasies with them, or with her rather. There's an instance with a park bench. There's an instance where she's dressed as a little girl and made to prance around, so it doesn't really take too much imagination to figure out what's going on here. And of course, the mother is directing which game they're to enact next, and she's the sole spectator. So not only does it speak ill of the boys, but it definitely speaks ill of the mother and what kind of a depraved creature she must be in order to encourage this, let alone sit around and watch this. That particular young lady is taken to the boys' bedroom that night. She has the sleepover while the other two women remain in the room that they've been tied up in. So the next morning, strangely enough, after the family has had breakfast, they untie the women, but they leave them loose in the locked room that they've been left in. So they're pretty much unattended while the men are going over their training as far as abducting and abusing women is concerned, because apparently it's something you have to keep your skills up on, because women are so ninja-like. But the women take advantage of this opportunity. They still have some of their camping gear with them. Trina is placed inside of a sleeping bag, and with the top of the bag tied, she is lowered to the ground. She makes it outside safely, and then obviously heads back into the home to unlock the door to let her friend out. As they are fleeing, they are seen by the men. They are attacked and almost re-apprehended, but in this instance, Mother starts wailing outside something about being attacked by Queenie, which we later learn is a psychotic sister who had apparently been put down by the grandmother, but was just so much of a deviant she broke the mother's neck while they were still children in the crib. And I don't know if it's just the fact that the mother's a hypochondriac or a narcissist or just has abandonment issues, but she, to that day, still wears a brace around her neck. And I don't think it's plausible that even if your neck is broken as a child, it could still be placed. You don't need a lifelong neck brace. That's just attention calling right there. Of course, due to the mother just making a fuss and insisting on being led back into the home, the women do escape with the injured woman, who is practically dead anyway. She does pass away in the forest, and Trina and Jackie both vow revenge. So Trina does separate from the group, and there was an instance as she was trying to flee that she runs across a police vehicle, so she stops and calls for help. only to realize that it's just one of the men in disguise. So that was pretty much a waste of time on her part. By the time she does make her way back to Jackie, she discovers that Beth has passed away. And from here on, they, obviously after burying her, from here on, they go back to the house to take their revenge. And the first son to die is stabbed in the back of the neck. He also takes a hatchet to the crotch. And the older of the two sons, witnessing this, just kind of dives out the second-story window, which makes absolutely no sense, but he rushes the women, and he is dispatched by a bottle of Drano and an electric knife. By the time they make it into the basement and confront Mother, Trina is kind of, I guess you could say, trying to choke or strangle her through the neck brace, and she keeps yelling the words, "I'm a sick woman, I'm a sick woman." This apparently triggers something with Jackie, and Jackie grabs a pair of inflatable boobs and smothers her, which I guess you could say is ironic because the smothering mother, which overly coddled or breastfed her children, is killed by a pair of inflatable boobs. But it's during this sequence that we have somewhat of a revealing factor about Jackie, and the fact that it's suggested that she also had a sick or ailing mother. She grew tired of taking care of her and killed her own mother in the same fashion. But that's pretty much the end of the family. As they're leaving the home, we do discover that Queenie actually is real, and we just fade out as Queenie initiates her attack. So one of the things that I found interesting about this film is the house in which they shot the film had actually been empty for 15 years. The original owner had been murdered inside the home, and before filming actually started, they did find a corpse inside the home. I doubt that was the owner. It could just as easily have been a dumping ground for someone else, but I don't know. I find that morbidly ironic, I guess you could say. Another piece of warped information is that one of the actresses actually took a liking to one of the men playing the goons, so they began dating, but of course it was the director who asked them to hold off on dating until production had finished, because his worry is that since they had an affection towards each other, they wouldn't be able to properly embody the tormentor, tormentee type aspect of their roles. But all in all, the movie really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I honestly don't care too much for Troma films, and as far as the productions that they do put out, this really wasn't too bad. Of course, you do have the hammy acting, bad sets, bad dialogue, but that's to be expected with Troma. But for being a cult classic, I guess you could say, it was actually pretty enjoyable compared to some of the other Troma films. I was actually able to tolerate sitting through this, but not a bad film. I guess I'll definitely have to take a look at it at another time and see how I feel about it. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys today, and I will talk to you later.